I just want to say something, man. It could be very well possible that some people are following me and they're getting inspired to get involved in itinerant evangelism or missionary work or anything like this. I just would like to provide a word of caution um, about that. Please take a look at my post that I did from Alexander Pagani on December the 26th. It's called "These Preachers Are Going to Hell." Church groupies. Alexander Pagani. He he's been involved in itinerant evangelism and deliverance for a number of years, and over time he got the revelation that it's not good to leave his wife and family behind for the sake of serving the Lord like that. And there's biblical support. 1 Corinthians 9:5. Do we have no right to take along a believing wife, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord in Cephas? That's Peter. That means all of the apostles, all the 12 apostles, right? They were itinerant evangelists and itinerant missionaries. And they took their wife and kids along with them. Okay? 1 Corinthians 9:5. 1 Corinthians 9:5. 1 Corinthians 9:5 teaches that every itinerant evangelist and every itinerant foreign missionary in the Bible times took their wives and kids along with them on their trips. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 5. Do we have no right to take along a believing wife? Take along a believing wife on our itinerant evangelism travels, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord, and Cephas. That's Peter. Here's why, guys. Porn. You have no accountability if you're by yourself. You're going to fall into porn, whether on your phone, whether on your computer, whether on your tablet, or on a hotel TV. You will also see women who will throw themselves at you, and you could be tempted. So it's not biblical. It also goes against Proverbs 7, because it also tempts the neglected and abandoned, deserted wife to sin. 1 Timothy 3:2. So a church leader must be a man whose life is above reproach. He must be faithful to his wife. 1 John 3:2. And faithfulness is not just sexual immorality being avoided. It's also not deserting your wife for the sake of quote-unquote ministry. Desertion, as you may know, is a ground for divorce in 1 Corinthians 7. Of course, that's permanent desertion we're talking about there. But if you're gone 100 days out of the year, you tell me that's not desertion? And lastly, Jesus was an itinerant evangelist. He raised from the dead. He's in the garden. And who's there? Mary Magdalene, a gorgeous former prostitute. I mean, she had to have been gorgeous to be a prostitute. Every prostitute is gorgeous, right, in order to sell herself. She was gorgeous, sexually attractive prostitute who got converted and became a disciple. She sees Jesus, the itinerant evangelist and resurrected Son of God, in the desert. She's so excited to see him. She gives him a hug and presses up against him. And his reaction is, in John 20, verse 17, do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. What? Let me put it plainly. Mary Magdalene, listen, I'm glad to see you too, but don't give me a hug because you're arousing me, and I don't want to think like that right now. I can't. I haven't even ascended into heaven yet. That's exactly what he means. John 20:17. In other words, Jesus was trying to keep the Billy Graham rule there. So, no, you shouldn't be hugging women that are not your wife. Secondly, you should not be traveling on itinerant evangelism or mission trips without your wife and kids. Thirdly, a church leader must be a man whose life is above reproach. He must be faithful to his wife. So the Billy Graham rule basically says, look, don't ever get alone with a woman who's not your wife under any ministry circumstances whatsoever. Now, With that being said, many modern evangelists who were men of God, I believe, did not adhere to 1 Corinthians 9:5. They left their wife and kids at home and followed the commonly accepted practice of traveling around without them. That's not biblical. That is a sin. And it's been done by many men of God, some of which are featured on this website, because I like the content that they preach. It has been done by many men of God. It's a sin. It's anti-biblical. And if you're an itinerant evangelist or an itinerant ministry and you're having marriage problems, that's why you're having marriage problems. You're not obeying 1 Corinthians 9:5. Do we have no right to take along a believing wife, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord, and Peter? Jesus' brothers were itinerant evangelists, and they carried their wife and kids around with them. Think about that. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 5. If you don't do this, listen to me. And I'm going to name some names here, and you're going to be shocked. Billy Graham didn't obey 1 Corinthians 9:5. It had a bad effect on his wife and kids. David Wilkerson did not obey 1 Corinthians 9:5. It had a bad effect on his wife and kids. Leonard Ravenhill did not obey 1 Corinthians 9:5. It had a bad effect on his wife and kids. John Wesley himself did not obey 1 Corinthians 9:5, and his wife left him over it, and grabbed his long hair and dragged him across the floor and screamed at him. If you feel called by a burden of the Lord, you have got to carry your wife and kids along with you on your itinerant trips. You have to obey 1 Corinthians 9:5. It is a biblical marriage-saving principle for itinerant evangelism. God bless out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.